welcome back. A little bit older, a little bit uglier.
We couldn't get another producer, so Dan's back as well.
Look at this, Dan.
We can divulge all this now.
This is what Todd's been itching to get into.
I didn't necessarily like him, but I respected him.
Well, everyone needs jewelry.
He's a maniac.
Further to him, crippled.
This is an audio podcast, Dom.
Sure. What do you think, Dan?
All right, Dan, give me some dramatic music.
No problem.
It was like coming home, the sound of Boris Johnson's last breath, a triumphant return to the digital airwaves. Some thought it untrue. Non-believers will know. Dan as Jesus Christ returned to earth. Tattered robes alight. You are absolved of all arson. Welcome back to How Not to Be an Asshole.
Sweet.
Fuck that
Things
guy.
are taking a weird turn. We just lost half our subscribers.
It's great.
They love that shit.
Yeah.
Hey, but
They don't know what they like, Todd.
before we get into things, I want to begin on a somber note. And following a serious intro, good friend of the podcast, Boris Johnson, was admitted into intensive care today. So big shout out to Boris. Speedy recovery.
I think he'd be willing to
well.
sacrifice himself for the economy anyway.
Yeah, he fucking...
there's a certain amount of just, you got to take the good with the bad. So he'd be prepared to do that, I'm sure.
He loves the economy.
Yeah, that's true.
fucking loves it. Just a quick bit of housekeeping before we introduce our guests and get into things. It is really good to be back and lovely to have all your feedback and listens and the patrons who signed up. Just everything means a lot to us. We're really, truly appreciative of that. Other housekeeping, available on all platforms. Dan, the angelic man that he is, re-upped every single episode we've ever done during the week.
So you can go back in time to 2016.
You can peruse the back catalogue. Dom, do you want to introduce the guests?
Sure. All right, so today we have two of my favorite people, Lubin and Louisa. Lubin is a chef and one of the smartest people I know. And Louisa Jones is the queen of First Union and is the scourge of bosses around the world.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thanks
Hello.
for having us.
Hey, Lubin,
No worries.
have you ever put that on your CV? One of the smartest people Dom knows.
No, should I?
Employers love that.
Just have a photo of me next to it. This guy thinks I'm smart.
Yeah.
How's your lockdown going?
It's been good. I'm having a really nice time.
Yeah, we're loving it.
You've kind of been training for this your whole life, though, or at least in the last 12 years or so.
Yeah, it's not too different from how I normally would live, to be honest.
Yeah,
I got great pants now.
No?
Nice. I decided this week, I was 80% there, but this week 100% committed to fucking loving lockdown.
You're not even in lockdown.
Yeah, what? Yeah, I am.
He's like going to the bottle store, the fish and chip shop. He's like
Well, you say
meeting
that.
up with people and having hanging out and
That's fucking bullshit.
high-fiving each other.
That's bullshit. I go to the shops for fucking food like anyone else, just we have a few more shops open.
Yeah. Very eye-opening last night when we talked.
Why? What
Stuff that's
happened?
going on over there. Just how Matt had guests around and
Hey, that's not my house. And don't blow
Yeah.
up Matt's spot on air. You know. Now that the podcast is huge and successful.
Yep.
Dan, is your cat still alive?
Yep. It is.
Dan's cat's got cancer.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
shit, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your
That'll
cat's
be all
name?
right.
Cairo.
Oh, poor Cairo.
Yeah. She's alright. I got some fresh wounds from her tonight. Some little ones.
She is
It's
ancient,
vicious.
like the city in Egypt.
It's
Is
You got to get
Yeah.
off those San Miguel's you've been drinking.
yeah, this is my second one. They're quite big cans, so.
Aren't they like 8% or something?
Oh shit! I didn't know that. That's why this is happening.
Turning into a blithering idiot.
No,
That
no,
makes sense.
they're just 5%.
So what have you guys been doing to occupy
yourself?
yourselves?
We've been sober for the last 2 weeks.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, we've been keeping the lockdown sober, eating healthy, fucking working out, fucking sober, drinking water. Look, I got water.
How are you feeling?
So healthy. And it's really good. Like, yeah, real routine kind of life, eh?
Yeah, it's nice.
Feels like the world's gone into chaos and then we've gone into this like real structured, sensible place. It's really good.
Did Lubin give you any tips on how to like sort of stay home?
Yeah, so before the
Do
lockdown,
stuff?
I was having these like real bad like anxiety attacks and like literally crying at the thought of having to be at home because I really like my life. And then Lubin reminded me that he's the master of staying at home and he knows how to set the pace. He set a tone because like normally like my life's like quite manic and lots of things happen and I have a lot of interactions. And then Lubin has this like different tempo. If you get on the tempo, everything's all right.
It's all sweet.
So can you tell the listeners like what kind of training you've been doing over the last decade?
My isolation training.
Yeah.
Well, you don't go outside. No, I tell you, Louise is right about tempo. I tell you what it is. You got to have something boring to do that's engaging enough, you know. So get a kind of mildly boring interest, and then just pursue that and forget everything else in the world. Stay inside. You're there. Normally, I would drink, but the last couple of weeks, I like it. I like it sober as well.
Mm. Do you know, on the eve of the lockdown, my flatmate Dave said, we should be sober for the lockdown. So I said, okay. And then we didn't get any booze. And then 2 days in, he suddenly had this bottle of wine. And I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, I decided I'm going to drink now. And I mean, obviously we got alcohol now, but there was a few days there. It was a bit hairy. Just sharing one bottle of wine between the two of us.
Strangely.
It's like being shipwrecked or something.
Strangely, in my life, I'm drinking more in lockdown because I'm having more social occasions in lockdown. So,
wow, that's just from Zoom kind of
yeah, so we do this, obviously, and this requires me to drink. And then about twice a week, there's a bunch of us who are having UFC watch parties. That also requires me to drink. Apparently, all my friends, their company needs alcohol.
Some social lubricant.
Yeah.
How's all your tamariki that you were looking after before all of this? What are they doing? Is it tamariki or rangatahi?
Which one of us are you talking to?
You Todd.
Me?
Yeah.
So, well, the nature of my work now is like contract and time limit based. So it's kind of like go make an impact, move along. So, but then there are a few clients who it's ongoing. So it's just, and man, for them, like particularly one that I'm thinking of, because he lives in a house, a care home essentially, and he absconds all the time.
It's a good word.
And so like when this first came along, it was just like, oh, we can't see you now because you're everywhere. Like, you know, he just takes off to the city and hangs with old homeless dudes and shit. So, so we can't see him obviously, and and like trying to reason with him about that was pretty difficult because he's like, oh, I just went and got tested and I don't have it, because they took him to the doctor, and but it's like, we still can't see you, I'm afraid. So that's a bit shitty, but you know, I think, and that was pretty early on too, so I'm sure he's grasping the whole idea now, but probably still absconding and doing whatever he wants. So
yeah, it's so rough thinking about all of like the kids and people that are in homes that aren't safe.
Oh yeah,
that aren't, like relaxing and don't have enough food and stuff. Terrifying.
Yeah, that's the worst thing, eh? Like, and because I've been thinking about myself a lot and how easy and like peaceful and nice this has been for me, and then when that thought hits me, I'm like, oh fuck, you know, like for some people this is really, really terrible.
Even some bad flats I can think of, you know, like getting locked locked down in your worst teenage flat.
We talked about that last week. And we're just like, imagine, this hit about 20 years ago or something. It could have been fucking disastrous.
Yeah, horrible.
Imagine being locked in a dog pound, a subterranean flat with no windows.
Sort of felt like it anyway, that place.
Was that the one with the blood stain on the floor?
Yeah,
No,
like
that was a step up. That had windows.
This one had dog scratches. It was really macabre. It was like it was really a dog pound. It had been a dog pound for years.
What was the blood stain on the floor at the other place?
That's the other place.
Yeah.
Me and Lubin moved into this flat and it had this really ugly mat. And Lubin goes, we'll get rid of that. And we lifted it up and there was a blood stain, like this huge blood stain taking up the whole floor. We're like, oh, I guess we'll put that back down again. Won't talk about that.
Damn.
But the unions are still going, Louisa?
Yeah, so our union's very much still going. So we've got 30,000 members in the private sector. And I reckon about half of them are probably still working. So we've got retail workers who work in the supermarkets and in the distribution centres, and the truck drivers are our members, and bus drivers are our members, and ambulance professionals are our members. So there's and they're and others as well, textile people and bakers and all sorts that are still working.
You got Countdown there.
Yeah, and Countdown. And then half of them are still working as essential workers, and then the other half are on the subsidy. And so it's quite weird having to work from home and with two large groups of workers with two quite different sets of needs, and both quite very important and urgent, kind of to get your head across what's happening for them and advocate and represent them,
And what are some of the things that they're facing?
Well, the supermarket workers, for example, it's quite difficult, obviously working in a supermarket at this time with people panic buying and abusing people, and they're copying a lot of abuse. One of the supermarket workers, I think was yesterday, got punched in the face just by a person who'd gone maniac trying to shop. And that's really bad. And then for the people that are not working, it's quite difficult as well. The people that work for Fletcher's is this big, massive company. It's this largest construction company in New Zealand. It's got all of these massive government contracts, and they've just basically shut down all production and put everyone off. And then they've got this system where they've told people to go on this system of getting paid, which ends up being by the end of the lockout, 30% of what they would have earned. And it's just a disaster for them. They're not doing anything the government's subsidy of you've got to make your best endeavours to pay 80%. They're not doing any of that. They've just left all of these workers who've, it's just, and they've got so much money. Preachers have got more money than God. And then I think it's 120 million that they've made so far this year or something, or they posted 190 million last year, and then they just shut everything down.
They're the Ihu Mātau people, eh?
What's that?
Yeah.
They're the Ihu Mātau people, eh?
Yeah, they're the ones that that were doing the stuff at Ihu Mātau.
I saw you shared an article today regarding that with our friend Jared Abbott.
Yeah.
Where can people find that article if they want to read further?
Go to firstunion.nz. Yeah, Jared's been doing a marvellous job of trying to stick it to them. And he had a meeting this afternoon with a couple politicians. It was Grant Robertson and Carmel Cepoloni there, and also Ian Lee Scalloway. And so hopefully they will do something about it, or put pressure on the right people to do the right thing and not leave these families high and dry. Eh?
I hope he doesn't use the same tactics he used to use when he managed our rap careers.
What kind of tactics were they? Do you want to talk about that on the podcast?
Maybe that'll be...
I don't know if he'd appreciate that, would he? You never know with Jared, though, eh?
Yeah.
I've written down some questions here, but I can't read any of them.
And
is it because of your handwriting?
Ration too low. We were... This is night terrors. Unions...
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
We don't want to talk about Dan's night terrors, but to take a couple steps back, we're already way in, but last week we did mention the idea of discussing labor as a concept, and that's part of the reason why we asked you guys on. So, for dummies like myself, explain labor or the concept of labor in 3 words, in as many words as you like. Either one of you, please.
Labor as in the workers kind of thing.
Yeah.
You go, Louisa.
Labor is work.
Yeah, it's work.
Is that what you mean?
I suppose the opposite.
Is,
Like you have somebody who needs to work and take wages in order to live, and then you have capital as the opposite of labor. I suppose like people who can make money passively off their money, kind of thing. And so labor as a kind of organized force, I suppose, is like Louisa. That's the union movement and stuff. Is it? You mean like the future of work?
Well, I guess how we got here was we were talking about how this situation, this crisis, has shown the value of labor to, I think,
Yeah, absolutely.
a lot of people who
I
didn't
talk about that with
understand
you
that.
because I've been thinking about this heaps and how, like, say, for example, if you were a cleaner a couple of weeks ago, how you would have been, like, felt that your place in society was. Like, it's generally minimum wage work and it's, generally disrespected in society. And now it's turned out to be, like, we've realised how important cleaning is. And similarly with people who are a checkout operator or people who are a bus driver, where they're much too poorly paid. And now we realise they're the actual essential services of society. And you see the people that have gone, like, on subsidy from, jobs where it's, like, not a necessary job, but you are paid $150,000 or $200,000 a year to do it. And now you can just go play golf for the lockdown or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
Golf because that would.
That's true though. Like you have all these positions which are can easily be done remotely. So there's all these kind of management positions and kind of this sort of middle class bourgeois positions where they're all at home. Except the problem is that there's no money because nobody's working, and so it's like all of this. It sort of shows up this whole section of society who are essentially doing meaningless work. They're just administrators of what's really the process of trying to extract money from the value of workers. And so then everyone's at home and they can't actually produce the money, and so everyone's screwed. But theoretically, they can all just have their office at home. But what were they doing the whole time? I think is what it shows up.
Yeah. Who really rely on society so society can continue? It's quite stark to think how poorly and paid and badly treated those people are.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
With the realization or the collective realization everyone seems to be having, is there something that can turn, because there's like you see a lot of lip service if you're on the internet, right? Of everyone being like, oh, let's hear it for our essential workers, for the people in the supermarket. Is there a way to materialize that into something real for those people, for the essential workers and people who are actually doing labor that matters and is important post the pandemic? Like what needs to happen in order for something real to change?
Well, I think that there's heaps of opportunity for every kind of change that needs to happen now. So, for example, just in a small way, like the supermarket workers got a 10% wage increase because the supermarket bosses are making mad bank at the moment from this situation. And so they can afford it. And also it looks, they're essential service workers. And so it's important that they get a wage increase or whatever. But really, they at the end of this, does their wage go down by 10%? At the end of the 4 weeks, when it's get to level 2, their wage will go down by 10%. What we've got to do is we've got to make this long term. So now that we recognise what their role is in society, we've got to ensure that it's long term. But also, I think it's driven a stark reminder to me so, for example, the way that we've structured our bus system, which will be the same in Australia, it's the same everywhere, where it's privatised, so that the government gives money and funding to the local council, and the local councils chips in their funding from the ratepayers, and then they give it to the bus operator. And then the bus operator, right, just skims off the profit of the thing, and then delivers the service and then takes the fee, the bus fares off of people and gives it back to the council. It's just like this ridiculous middleman. It's completely unnecessary. I think it's like absolutely vital that we nationalise the buses and the hospitals, because in Aotearoa we say that we've got these public hospitals, but there's so much of the services that go on that support our hospitals to happen that's been privatised over time. And I think that now that we realise that these are essential things that the state can and has intervened to do this lockdown, we should see that continue.
If they're bailing out airlines too, shouldn't they be nationalised as well?
Nationalise the airlines, absolutely. Nationalise all public transport and the hospitals. Fuck it, nationalise the supermarkets.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the airline was nationalised until not. I mean, how long? When did they sell off Air New Zealand?
Well, they've got shares in New Zealand. They don't own all of it.
But they've done it twice. So they sold it all off and then they bought it back two times.
Yeah, that's right.
And then sold it off again. And so it's just a ridiculous situation with it.
Do you know which governments sold it and which ones bought it back, Lubes?
I can't remember. I think Labour, the Helen Clark government bought it back.
They did, yeah.
And but I think it was the Labour government that sold it in the first place.
Oh,
so
right.
it was maybe Labour both times, but I'm not sure. I'm not certain about that.
Yeah.
But the thing as well, talking about the idea of profit, I think is something that's been shown up, and so like the necessity to make profit. So you have a situation where in the recent past, the idea that something was not feasible because there wasn't a way for people to make directly profit off it was something that everybody sort of bought into, to the point where it almost became like nature, you know? So it had to be, you had to have enough sun on your crops or whatever, and you had to have enough shareholder returns or else something was impossible. And now what this has shown up is that it's more important to be able to get food than it is for progressive shareholders to make profit, you know. And so it's shown up this idea that the profit is an essential component. And so I think that in the future there's a lot of potential for workplaces which don't generate profit and activities that don't generate profit. So like the idea of a workplace and you know, they're all talking about we need to keep the jobs. There needs to be a job there when you get back or something, you know. And so therefore we need to support capitalists to continue to make money in order for this job to still be available for a worker when they get back. Whereas, you know, you could have a workplace which was only providing income for the workers and not generating profit for anybody. You know, I think that's a lot simpler, and it's a lot similar to what Louisa was saying about removing the middleman, you know. So there's a lot of potential for that coming. I think people have seen that you don't need to make profit, is I guess my point.
Yeah, there's something beautiful about this lockdown that is that we're all doing it for health. Like, have you ever, I don't know of another example where the whole world is cooperating to not produce profit for health. Like, it's quite a turnaround, right?
I guess for a lot of people too, it's like they've grown up, you know, like people even in their 30s now have grown up under neoliberalism. They've never known anything else. And even for us, it's sort of like it's only a distant memory what it was like pre that, you know, because we were kids. So I think this is for a lot of people, it's their first time sort of seeing through the cracks of this, you know, and like you say, it just sort of seemed like it was nature for so long. Like, you know, I mean, I've had people say that to me, well, this is just how it is. And it's like, well, it's not been like this for like 30 years or something. It's not.
And even the idea that the system itself, there's a kind of the neoliberal idea, conception of it is that it's sort of just accreted out of nothing, you know, like it's just naturally formed this way. The system has just sort of randomly occurred in this way. Not that it's a structure which has been artificially created by humans to benefit one group, you know. And so now this is showing up, I think, with the mass action and with everybody cooperating and all of that stuff. It shows up what the sort of structure of society is. It's artificial. You know, it's a constructed thing.
Yeah, and when you were telling me, was it you that was telling me about how like the YouTubers who are being like vacuous capitalists are kind of like losing their audience from those kind of younger?
Yeah, like influencers and stuff.
Yeah, influencers. That's the word.
Oh, that's occurring right now, like since the.
Yeah, I think. Well, because I think the problem with that stuff was that, or the reason why it's not going well now is that no one can buy anything. And so because it was entirely based on this kind of perpetual consumer-driven thing, it's like apparently Ford was talking about it and saying that all social media is massively declining because it's fucking boring because nobody's out doing anything. And so you can't go and influence. Like, I recommend that you go to your kitchen and have porridge. Like, it's not exciting.
I'm experiencing that myself because I'm a proletariat with bourgeoisie daydreams. And I'm
aspirations.
No, not aspirations, but I just like
I like nice things.
I like stuff, and something will come across my feed that because I buy heaps of rubbish, and since this has happened, stuff comes across my feed, and I actually can't I shouldn't have been able to justify buying that before, but now I actually can't justify buying that because nothing has value anymore.
Yeah, but it's also, if you think about, like, we might be in this situation for 6 months, potentially, or even longer, and then it's like, well, I don't need to buy any more jewelry or fucking shoes it's like, today I went out, I was wearing track pants, like a checkered button-up shirt and a beanie, and it's like a fucking mad person. You know what I mean? But everyone else does as well, you know what I mean?
It's the supermarket queue looks like, it's great. You see the supermarket queue and it's just, it's mad.
Dom says that like he doesn't look like a mad person 100% of the time.
But I'm normally, like I put it together. Hey, Dan. Dan likes the way I dress.
Yeah, you always look really good.
I put on jewelry to go to the supermarket today.
I put on jewelry when I did live streaming.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Just little things like that,
Yeah, sometimes I'll put shoes on if I'm going to be Zooming friends.
I haven't worn an underwire bra for 2 weeks, and I don't know if I can ever go back.
Hey.
I bought all these jewels. I just feel like I should use them.
Yeah.
Look at this one, Todd. This one's... Oh, you can't see. Can you see that? It's got jewels in it, and it's a C for Chile.
Hey, that's kind of nice.
Thank you.
I like your chain that you wear, Don.
This one's got bees. The chain gave me a rash, so I haven't been wearing that lately.
Hey, you don't wear more than 2 rings at a time, do you?
What's wrong with that?
It's not okay.
What does it mean?
I don't know. I don't approve of more than 2 rings at a time.
How do you feel about that, Dan?
I don't know. I quite like it.
What jewels do you wear, Dan?
Sorry?
What jewels do you wear?
None at all.
I've never seen Dan wear jewelry.
Dan has a simple aesthetic.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty sick.
Hey, I think my flatmate Louis and I were an accessory to a crime yesterday.
Oh yeah? Is this the kind of thing that you're going to talk about on?
I feel like they're going to overlook a lot of petty crime in the coming months, so I'm pretty happy to talk about it openly.
Yeah.
But
it'll be a combination that way. So like most of it will be overlooked, and then a small percentage will be really disproportionately punished.
Yeah.
So
yeah. They'll just be like, "Oh, fuck off, Dom."
That's like an introduction to your confessing your crime.
Yeah. So I live with 2 people. I live with Louis and Babs. Babs is really kind and well-meaning, and anyway, she was out the front doing some shit, and she comes in.
Kind and well-meaning.
She comes in, she's like, "Louis and Todd, there's a guy trying to start his car out there. Can you help him?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll go out and help this guy." Fuck, we might have contracted COVID for this as well, not only being...
Yeah, that's breaking quarantine.
Yeah. So we go out, and he looks he was closing in on 50, and he was driving like one of those boy racer Skylines. Well, he wasn't driving it because it wouldn't start. And we start pushing, and Louis just kind of looks at me. He's like, "Bro, this is definitely stolen." And 'cause I hadn't seen the guy yet, and then he gets out the car to help us push, and he's like bleeding down his arm and down his nose, and he's just like, he's a maniac. And he was like, he was like 2 meters away from me, and I could smell alcohol on him. It was like 10 in the morning. And I just got home from a 5K run, so my legs were already sore, and we gave it a couple pushes, it wouldn't start. And I was like, bro, I was like trying to tell him I was done. He was like, no, we'll get this cunt going. And and it took about like, I don't know, like 5-6 goes, get the car going. Another neighbor jumped in. I told him we're a party to a crime, and I don't know if he'd clicked on. But and then the car...
It sounds like it could be entirely innocent type.
Yeah,
It's
possibly.
Probably just some drunk driving.
Yeah, hey,
Maniac.
I don't trust this guy. But anyway, once we got the car going, he just like slammed the door shut, didn't say anything to us, and just did a massive burnout outside our house. And took off. And I didn't necessarily like him, but I respected him.
Yeah.
I think that the
Sweet.
burnout was the thank you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because he probably looked at me and would have been like, this prick, he likes a burnout.
You'd know how to do a burnout, wouldn't you, Dan?
Totally.
He's from fucking Nelson, of course.
I am a burnout.
I forgot to do my disclaimer at the start that I've watched 2 seasons of Sopranos in about 3 days. So if I call anyone a motherless fuck, don't take it. Don't take it.
I told you about my parents do that, eh? They live in the country. My parents live in the country and they binge watch TV and call each other the insults from the show. So like cocksucker when they were watching Deadwood. And they go around there. My dad is calling out to my mum, you're a cup of tea, you cocksucker. How is it? Charming.
The second I hear that, I just aspire to be that. That's like what I want in my life.
You're smoking in my office.
Oh, yeah, shit. Hang on.
Oh, are you just
Sorry, Lubin can't smoke in my office.
He's just
He's
going
just
to leave.
leaving. He's just leaving the podcast like that. Priorities,
First
eh?
guest to walk out.
He has
Yeah.
no regard for what we're trying to do here. Have you
No regard
guys,
for the news or for art.
have you
What?
guys heard about? So they're projecting, and I think at the moment it's like 13% unemployment in the States, but they're projecting it may get to like 33% or over. And the Great Depression was 22% unemployment.
Was there a question there?
I don't know. That just sounds real bad.
It does sound really bad, doesn't it? Because it means that we've got a society structured on people that have to have a wage every week in order to get by enough to turn up again the next week and do it again. And already we know in America, because their social safety net has been so depleted in recent years, that when you don't have a job, you're in big trouble. It's scary. It's real people, real lives, right?
That also means heaps of healthcare gone as well in that country.
Yeah.
Haven't they sort of waived some of the insurance though now? I heard that there's...
Or maybe in the last few days, but like a kid died a week ago because he couldn't get.
Yeah, I know that happened, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they said something like they're waiving at least part of the insurance so you can get healthcare now.
Okay.
Like they're saying they were saying that in some states as many as 1 in 7 people are going to be getting. They predict will get COVID-19.
1 in 7.
So,
They're really making a good fist of it at present. Like, I looked at stats yesterday and it was fucked. Were you guys sad about Bernie's demise or what looks like his demise?
really surprised that people go for Biden. I can't work that out. And the idea, like, he's a safe pair of hands or something. He just looks like he's completely senile to me.
He's like Grandpa Simpson.
Yeah. And especially as well during this, like, COVID thing. So you get, like, I mean, Trump and all of those guys are just, it's madness. They're like a kind of car salesman, con men or something, you know, but at least they've got sort of a certain amount of hype.
Yeah.
You know, and then Bernie Sanders is talking, and then you'll see Joe Biden. He's just like in this little living room somewhere in the middle of nowhere, just talking, just rambling some madness and kind of this quiet voice.
Yeah.
How the fuck is he even relevant? I don't know why he's leading the thing. Like, why would you pick him?
Like, he actually isn't coherent a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so insane.
I heard, though, was that the Democratic Party stepped in and was basically like told the others, like, if you drop out,
Yeah,
that
Obama did.
you will, you'll get these positions
Yeah.
in the administration if we win, which
Yeah, it was
they're not going to.
It was orchestrated because the Democrats didn't have someone to run or a clear person to run against Bernie. Because you know how usually that the party elite or whatever you want to call it, establishment, have their nominee, like picked before the primary. This year they didn't. Hence why you had a Biden, you had a Klobuchar, Pete the Rat Buttigieg, CIA operative. Who fucking else was there? But there was so many of them, and they're all kind of
Warren.
like
Yeah, and they
neck and neck.
gave everybody
Warren.
a go away. Like I remember Bloomberg, when Bloomberg was before he got out, there was a week before that, before he'd even been in any primaries, where they sort of started the spin up with him. You know, and they're saying, oh, you know, he comes from the same place as Trump, and you know, maybe he's going to be on the same, you know, toe to toe, and there's New York moguls. Maybe it's who we need, and you know, and then it just completely crapped out. They just dropped it, but it was obviously a kind of like they were just trying it out.
One of the pictures,
Going to be the guy.
One of the pictures for Bloomberg was he's a real billionaire as opposed to Trump. It's like, oh, fuck, awesome. Oh, so he's actually like dangerous. He's just not dangerous in a clumsy way. He's dangerous in a fucking calculated, evil way. Cool.
That's right,
Yeah,
I
terribly.
watched this video with Naomi Klein in it, last night, and she was talking about the opportunities that come out of like a crisis like this or something like this for like changing the system. And one of her points that I thought was really salient was that like a couple weeks ago, like Bernie's policies around like universal healthcare and things like that seemed impossible. But now, 2 weeks into this, they seem so viable and necessary. You know, like I just wonder if like if things were different, then, and you know, like time had sped up, then if he wouldn't have been a shoo-in, you know.
Yeah, well, the primary isn't over yet. So
True.
like that, I forget what the next state is, but which is not good for Bernie, but I think they've gone from like 150 polling stations, they've reduced it to like 3 because people are refusing to operate the polling stations. But so if that, like, surely they'll hold that primary, it'll be too disputed. They won't be able to count that, or I mean, like the Democratic Party can count it, the DNC can count it if they want, I guess, but people are going to be pissed. And then perhaps something will change after that. But so I don't know, things could like flip on their head. Like they already flipped on their head once in favor of Biden. So
Yeah.
there's still some hope, but fuck knows.
Yeah, especially when you get, like Louisa said, all of a sudden he's the only person who is kind of in the context of the thing, he's the only rational person in a way, you know, like everybody else basically has to stand up and say it's more important to protect the system of capital than for people's lives to be saved.
Yeah.
Like that's essentially what they have to say, because that's what they are saying.
Yeah, well,
you know, there's no way to disguise that.
Yeah. Joe Biden is still saying, oh, but people like the health insurance they get through their employer. It's like, a third of the country's about to have no job. So how much do they like their fucking health insurance now?
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy.
I guess just the propaganda in that country is so thick, though. You know, I mean, like I was amazed when I went there, and it was just kind of like, I remember being at the airport, at JFK Airport when I flew out, and it was like there were just TV screens everywhere, and they're all playing shit about the, it was in 2012, so the Afghani war was still going on, and they were just, it was Syria, and they're just showing stats of troops. This many troops died, but this many enemy combatants were killed, and it was just constantly like that, and it was just really weird, like, because, you know, like we only see... Yeah, well, we just see America through the culture that we consume, you know what I mean? But when you're actually there, you see what they're actually seeing, and it's quite different, you know? What are some of like, you know, if you imagine, I guess, like, I don't want to say utopian, but just futures, like positive futures that could come out of this
We don't
situation.
die of climate change.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like one of the things is about this, and I hate like talking about the positives too much, because like it's really important to remember how many people are suffering and dying
Yeah,
from it
sure.
right now. So it's like
Yeah.
you don't want to be like the silver lining guy too hard out, but like I do think that the collective effort that we're making is the collective effort that we should have been making anyway because of climate change. So maybe it's good practice, you know, maybe it's a good practice round.
It does, because I guess like before this too, right? If you're thinking about those things, and it's really easy to be defeatist and be like, well, nah, we're fucked because everyone won't come together. Like, and this kind of proves that everyone can come together around a common cause and around like a healthier, better world. So
Yeah, and the state can intervene. Like
That's it.
this is the thing that like everyone that was always saying, oh, you know, like this corporation is bigger than most economies, like most like countries' GDPs at this point, you know, like no, the government can't stand up to these corporations. But if it actually when it came to it, they actually can, and they did, and they should have, and it's good, you know.
yeah,
We just got to keep doing it, you know, because I think that every day that the kind of economy is at this like standstill and everybody's not working, then it like there's more and more pressure from these corporations to get the factories and mills up and running again, right?
yeah. That's something. Sorry, that's something I want to fucking stress again too. But just that point that like, for all the fucking hand wringing and whinging about benefits and government assistance to people, is like people have lived for years and years and years and generations in need of that assistance, and all of a sudden just this once a lot of people find themselves in need of that. And I hope that fucking understanding spreads that this is some people's like everyday life for generations and their families.
Yeah.
That they have needed this all that time, and they've been treated like shit for it, and they've been looked down upon and oppressed because of that. And I really fucking hope a lot of people like begin to understand that it's not a choice, like needing that assistance. Like it's human dignity and a right to live with that dignity.
That's right. We're all beneficiaries now, and including like all of these companies that like you know are getting support from the government to continue on, eh?
Yes, and also the thing that's so true. And the other part as well is it comes back to that idea about the analogy of capitalism to nature. And so you have years and years of, you know, if you don't, you have to pay your mortgage. The bank has to have its money. Interest is like a thing which is just naturally occurring, like weather, you know. And then the circumstances change, and then they can say, okay, well, nobody has to pay rent, you know, like Italy. You know, okay, we'll just stop rent. No mortgages for this next month. It's like, okay, so it's absolutely unnecessary then. You know, like it's not actually a part of functioning of life at all. It's just exploitation.
Well, one thing I was thinking about...
seeing that, it's not something that's unstoppable.
Yeah. But
you know,
if you think about how...
this happened, we were bargaining this agreement with the workers at Cotton On. Do you know Cotton On stores? They kind of like make fast fashion, I guess.
And do big grand gestures of
philanthropy, right?
Yeah.
Well, they pay their workers for like just fuck all, and like we were trying to like get them to pay like the living wage, and then Tally went to the bargaining, and the company was like, "Oh, sorry, because this like COVID thing is happening." It was like level 2 at this stage. They're like, "Oh no, it was even before level 2." They were like, "Sorry, we can't get our stuff in because we like outsourced all of the making in China to get like the lowest cost model. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to like not offer you guys any wage increase at all because we can't get our stuff in from China." And it's like this absurd thing where they've just completely outsourced to the poorest possible nation, like all of the manufacturing of the stuff that they sell. And then they want the workers to suffer in Aotearoa to not have a wage increase and in fact be put off work without like wages. So it's just like a crazy, crazy model that we've all brought ourselves into. And like, there's no reason that we can't manufacture here and have those jobs here. In fact, we've got a lot of people that have been put off work. Like, we should really be manufacturing our own stuff. We should be making our own face masks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess there's a situation now, right, that it looks like potentially we're going to recover faster than maybe anywhere else in the world. So you could end up in a situation where we're actually necessary not only for our own economy, but for the world. Do you know what I mean? To be supplying things, which potentially could be quite positive. One thing I was thinking I was going to say before is that I think there's like, it's quite heartening, like the amount of solidarity that you're seeing, you know, like whether in New Zealand or around the world with this. And everyone's locked away. So you imagine if it was something to do with climate change, where it was like, yes, we have to come together, but we weren't all locked inside. I think that's when you would actually see real change that couldn't be reversed. Because I think once you've experienced a situation, whether it's at, I don't know, a protest or, you know, sometimes you have it at music festivals or wherever, where, you know, you experience collectivization in that way, you really realize that that's how humans are meant to live.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think that could be potentially like something that could be really positive.
Do you remember that weird festival you took me to with all the Germans, Dom?
Yep.
I didn't feel it at that festival.
No. Well, if you would have taken acid with the rest of us, maybe you would have.
Yeah, no, I feel like I made a smart decision that night.
I actually really long for that feeling of like clicking with a group of people, like being at my mum's house on a Sunday with my fam, like everyone having a laugh, or like being at work and like everyone's doing the thing. You know what I mean? I just love that feeling of being with a group of people when you're clicking. Yeah. I mean, I suppose it still happens at home, but it's just like with the people in your own bubble, and I think it's the thing that I miss the most from regular life.
Yeah, yeah. Do you guys have you? In most occasions where I've visited you, which hasn't happened in a long time, you've always had quite a full house. Is it just you two at the moment?
Nah, we've got Son downstairs.
Ah.
And then also Nathan, and then also August and Iona.
Oh, sick. So you do have...
Claudie's not in our bubble, but he like came for a walk the other day. He didn't come in the house or anything, but he just like hollered at us. So it was good.
Nice. Oh, so you can't even give your son a hug.
Nah, it's real painful.
Yeah, that's fucking awful.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, we got that balcony, you know, we can do like Romeo and Juliet. If people want to visit, we can talk down off the balcony to them.
Yeah.
I wish I could give Dan a hug right now. Where are we at for time then? Oh shit.
Fucking smashing it. Lubin, Todd brought up DB Cooper the other day.
Oh
yeah.
Just like completely unrelated to you.
Have you read The Skies Belong to Us, Lubin?
No.
Oh shit. So it's a book about, it's called The Skies Belong to Us, Love in the Age of the Skyjacking Era. And it's about a couple who I think were towards the end of the skyjacking era.
Yeah.
A black military dude and just and a white woman, and it's just crazy interesting, and
that sounds amazing.
It's such a good book. Colin Mitchell recommended it to me, and I'd heard that there's a podcast on Criminal called 10,000 Feet in the Air, which is about a guy who copycatted DB Cooper.
Yeah. I got a theory about that.
Oh, please.
Well, should we say who DB Cooper is briefly?
Oh, yeah. Set it up, Lubes.
DB Cooper is the he's the man who hijacked a domestic passenger plane and then negotiated himself a parachute and then leapt off the airplane in mid-air to get away. He ransomed some money and then he's like a super criminal mystery.
And
he was never found.
Became a cult figure too, right? And they don't know
a criminal cult figure, I suppose.
And they don't know whether he survived or died, although the strong suspicion is that he didn't survive it. But
yeah.
So do you?
But
think
they never found his body or anything.
Nah, they found some money, didn't they?
But it was buried.
But they never found any of the money spent. That's the thing. Like,
okay.
None because they know the serials, So none of the money's turned back up in circulation. So it probably hasn't been spent.
Yeah.
Which is, but I don't know. But anyway, the theory is to do with see DB Cooper. He got he asked for a normal amount of money. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't that much money. I think it was like $100,000 or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then what you get after that, you get a number of copycats. So there's about 3 or 4 copycats, and they ask for really specific amounts of money. So one of them asked for 101,000. Another guy asked for like 86,000. And so my theory is that those numbers of the money relate to parachute squadrons. So they're like military copycats.
Yeah.
And DB Cooper, because the theory is that DB Cooper was like special forces.
Right.
And so there's these other soldiers who are parachute guys who copy the crime and then signify where their allegiances are by the amount of money they request.
Oh yeah.
Because why would you ask for $101,000?
It is weird.
They're all the numbers are really specific, so it's got to have some meaning,
The couple I read the book about, because I think there was a lot more than 3 or 4 copycats. I think there was heaps.
Yeah, right.
I guess another fact for people listening, because not many people know about the skyjacking era, I've discovered since I read that book, because I try to talk to everyone about it, and everyone's like, what? And I was like, yeah, flights used to get hijacked all the fucking time. Like sometimes there was 2 in a day on several occasions, and so many of the flights were getting hijacked to Cuba that there was an article written, I think in the New York Times or something, that had travel suggestions for if your flight got taken to Cuba. There was like it had like bars to go get good cocktails at, where the good shopping was, that sort of shit.
Hilarious.
But yeah, the couple I read the book about, they got 500,000, and upon exiting, they ended up going to Algiers. He wanted to go to Vietnam to atone for his time spent in the Vietnam War. But they ended up in Algiers, and upon exiting the plane, he gave all the cabin crew that he'd traveled with, money. But
awesome.
one of his other demands was the day he hijacked and left the States, Angela Davis was having the trial for manslaughter, where the guy the Black Panther had killed someone, the gun had a connection to her or something. Anyway, one of his demands was that Angela Davis was on the runway in a white dress, and that he was going to take her to Vietnam with him.
Red.
Yeah, so cool.
Lubin and Louisa, what do you think about the mysterious photos of the things in the forest?
I think that we're looking at a murder.
Yeah. So I do lots of walks. So I do lots of walks because I live by the forest. So I do lots of walks through the forest, and then I noticed that there were these like rock formations, like people had piled rocks up, and then there were like sticks were and then I started seeing sticks that were like placed in weird ways, and like mounds of dirt and like.
Oh no, that's just white girls whose dads always had jobs, fucking trying to find some peace and calm out in nature.
Wiccans, you reckon it's Wicca?
Yeah.
Witchcraft.
Do you think? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they've either killed or they're going to kill.
Yeah, it's got that vibe. It's ominous. And they always do it at night too, because I walk there all the time, and then you go there in the morning and it's there. I mean, I guess I don't go in the morning. I go at about 12. But
you have to do a stakeout. Stay there all night. Catch them.
You and Chile.
But then, but then we're quarantined, so I can't approach them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Stay
true.
2 meters away.
Don't approach them. They're dangerous anyway.
Yeah, that's
Just
right.
do it with binoculars.
Yeah.
And that story, Dom, is good isolation news for you, that now your 12 o'clock morning is everybody's 12 o'clock morning.
But here's the people still getting up early.
Like
I've
who?
noticed.
Not you.
What's that?
Not you.
No, not me. But I've seen
I had a
lots of
Zoom
people out there.
conference at 7 a.m. this morning.
Jesus Christ.
I'm still up before 7. just playing Red Dead Redemption.
You love getting up early though.
Yeah, it's good.
Do you drink coffee in the morning, Todd?
Yeah, fucking heaps of it.
Yes.
Yeah, way too much. But it's all right. I did a HIIT class this morning. I think it stands
The
out
fuck
for
is a HIIT class?
hard out interval training.
High intensity interval training.
Yeah.
HIIT.
Yeah.
You just like saying HIIT class because it sounds cool.
It doesn't sound cool at all,
HIIT class.
actually.
What do you think about this, Dan? Dan's not doing any fucking HIIT classes.
Ever done a HIIT class, Dan? Yeah.
Dan frowns upon that kind of thing.
Yeah, he doesn't fucking like that. Look at
We
him.
recently tried to have a break and rec get together, and I was hoping that at that we could get to the bottom of when Jared choked out Dan.
What?
But
I
they
need to
refused.
know.
Maybe we could do Wait, let's do the mystery episode about that, Dom.
When Jared choked out Dan.
How
Who else was there, Dan?
How many people were there? Can we get them all on record?
There was only 3. But every time you
What
ask
was
Jared,
it?
he just talks louder and louder. So you can't talk. You can't get your answer in.
Does he imagine he's talking to some government officials about his union demands?
Can you tell
what
the
he's
new-
defending against? He choked me
So
out.
for the new listeners, what happened was that Jared has set up a jiu-jitsu gym in the bottom of Dan's house, and then he found out that Dan had gone down the night before and rolled around on the mats when he was drunk in his underwear, and he got quite upset by it. He said what did he say, Dan? He'd broken the rules of the dojo or something. So then he
about that.
choked out Dan.
And then he had to make an example of me.
Yeah.
And he
So he
got his
choked
mate
Dan
to turn
out.
the lights off and choke me out.
Week,
I don't
then,
understand what's the mystery in that.
yeah, week,
Yeah,
Well,
there's
but
too
Jared-
much mystery there.
So
week by
Jared-
week in the
There's nothing
podcast,
mysterious about it.
week by week we're gonna unravel this.
Jared says that Dan just had a panic attack coincidentally while being choked.
He's really sticking with that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been, how many years has it been? Like 12 years?
Fuck, longer than that. 2008
Longer.
or 9 maybe.
Yeah, that's about 12 years.
Is it?
10 or so.
I'm no maths genius, but do you know who's good at maths is Todd?
Yeah, real good.
Pretty good at maths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
What's 7
He's got
times
nice
6?
handwriting and he's good at maths.
Sorry, what was that?
7 times 6.
32.
No, it's 42.
42.
That's my favourite number.
42.
That's the only maths I know.
I'm real
Make me look
bad.
like a fool,
I'm
Todd. You
real-
make both of us look like idiots.
I'm real bad at maths. I haven't done any for a while. But I did as a young person. I had a proclivity for numbers, and apparently it's waned in my later years. Okay, let's wrap it up. Dom, you need to
seen
stop
this?
doing that.
The
Thanks so
listeners
much.
like it.
Thanks so much,
Ocarina.
Louisa and Lubin. A, it was really nice to see your faces, and
Yeah, you
B,
too.
thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having us. It was
Yeah,
really good to
nice
see
to
you
see
as
you.
well.
Yeah, hard out. So nice to talk to you guys. And when
Stay safe.
when this all blows over, I'm gonna come home and hang out with you guys.
Brad,
To conclude, thank you again for your patronage, your listens. Check us out on all platforms. There was something I needed
Subscribe.
to say. Oh, that's what I need to say. I went on to like the New Zealand podcast charts, and we're behind the likes of fucking Mike Hosking, Ben Shapiro, some other assholes. So please pass us on to a friend who might be listening to some nonsense and tell them to listen to our nonsense, because it's better nonsense.
A particular brand of nonsense.
Yeah, it's a special sort. It's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Toodaloo.
bye.
Thanks, all.
Dan, roll the music.
Roll the music, Dan.